I was lying on the floor unconscious. I couldn't remember how long I'd been there like that. I slowly opened my eyes. Everything around me was blurred. I got back on my feet and started coming back to reality. I was still inside that hotel where Skylar brought me. Luckily, she removed the blindfold and untied me. I realized that this was my best chance to escape. I had to leave this place immediately before she came back. I started running and suddenly hit my head on an iron bar. I fell on the floor, and that's when I noticed there was a huge iron cage all around me. Skylar had locked me like an animal inside a zoo and left me. Hi, it's David, and I'm back to continue my story. Last time I told you about how my ex-girlfriend put a false accusation on me to put me behind bars and locked me in her haunted hotel when I refused to leave my girlfriend. Today, I'll tell you how she gave me a telescope when we were so young I could see everything inside her room, and why she hid inside my mattress to express her love for me. I started banging that cage, hoping it would break, but it didn't. It stood there as it was. At that moment, I heard the sound of a champagne bottle popping. It was Skylar. She walked towards me with the bottle and a glass in her hand. There was this sinister smile on her face. "I can't believe this day has finally come, David," she said. "You and I together in a room. I would have preferred if it was my bedroom, but this isn't too bad, isn't it? Please, let me go, Skylar," I pleaded. "Why do you want to leave, David? Don't you like me?" Skylar said as she walked towards me. "I got this cage specially made for you, David. I know you have a habit of leaving me, so this just seemed like a good investment." I kicked the cage with anger and replied, "I hate you, Skylar. You were the biggest mistake of my life." She came close to the cage, looked me in the eyes and said, "What has happened to you, darling? Why did your feelings change? There used to be a time where you were madly in love with me." I stood there, speechless. She was right. At one point in time, when we were both younger, we had a fairy tale love story. After Skylar saw me on the street, she got really emotional when she came to know that my parents abandoned me and made me homeless at such a young age. She decided to help me out and give me a small room inside a shelter in her backyard, along with some money. We already had a crush on each other secretly, so living in the same house felt like a dream come true. We would spend all day inside the shelter, talking about our lives. At night, Skylar had this weird habit of sleepwalking, so she would often end up coming to my shelter in late hours of the night in her sleep. I would wake her up, and then we would laugh and keep talking till the sun came up. Something good was finally happening to me, after being mistreated by my parents for 16 years. But Skylar's parents had an issue with this. They didn't like us being together so much. Her father had objections to his daughter being so close to a homeless and poor boy. He tried to kick me out of the shelter, but Skylar pleaded with him not to do so. He accepted her request, but he made her pay a price for it. He locked her on the top floor of their house, so she stayed away from me. This hurt both of us quite a lot because now we couldn't talk to each other at all. All the endless conversations we had in each other's company had come to an end. One day, lying on her bed in despair, Skylar got an idea. Those days, video calling wasn't as popular, so she found another solution. On my 17th birthday, she ordered a telescope by calling a nearby store and gifted it to me. She would come out on her top floor balcony with romantic messages written on a placard and ask me to read them with the help of the telescope. It was a great idea. I would reply to her with my own placards, and she would easily be able to read them with the help of her binoculars. This went on for weeks, and soon it was obvious that we would both start dating. I decided to ask her out. I bought her favorite chocolate, along with a bouquet of white flowers, and went to her home wearing my best clothes. Sadly, things didn't go as I expected. When I arrived at her house, it was almost completely empty, with no furniture. There were people carrying heavy bags of luggage outside, while Skylar was helping her mother pack everything. When she noticed me, she came running towards me with tears in her eyes. I asked her, "What happened?" "I'm moving out, David. My father has started a new business venture in South Korea. We're moving there." Well, this news came as a shock to me. I was going to lose the only friend I had in this city, the friend that I'd fallen in love with. She noticed the flowers and chocolates in my hand. "Who are those for?" she asked. I didn't have the courage to tell her. I didn't have the courage to ask her out now. But she understood everything when she looked me in the eyes. She hugged me tightly and said, "Our story won't end here, David. Distance can never come between us." Her mother called her and said their taxi had arrived. I didn't want to let go of her. but I had no choice. I promised her, we'll always stay in touch, and our story will continue. But sadly, as it often happens in long distance, that didn't happen. As time went by, we both moved on with our lives. I got into an Ivy League college. It helped me land a job in one of the best investment firms in the whole world. My dreams started coming true. I bought an apartment on my own and started living there. Years passed, and I didn't hear from Skylar. One day, when I came back home from my job, I was really tired because of all the endless meetings and Excel sheets, so I quickly turned out the lights and decided to go to bed early. But for some reason, I couldn't sleep. There was something different about my bed tonight. The mattress felt just too uncomfortable and hard. So I got out of the bed and turned on the lights to see what the problem was. You wouldn't believe what I saw. It was Skylar. She was hiding inside my mattress. She jumped out and shouted with excitement, "Surprise!" I was shocked. I couldn't believe that she was here. I immediately asked her, "What are you doing inside my house? And how did you find me?" Skylar started laughing. "I'm a computer science graduate, David. A few Google searches and hacked IP addresses. That was all I needed to trace your location." Well, she must be a great hacker to find my exact location after 6 years. "But weren't you in South Korea? When did you move back?" I asked her. "About a week ago," she replied. "As soon as I landed here, I started looking for you. I'm so happy that my search finally came to an end today. I'm so happy that I found you." I couldn't deny it. I was also very happy to see her. Work had been really difficult as of late, and my love life had been in turmoil after my college girlfriend left me 6 months ago. I was really glad to see Skylar again. She said, "I was looking for you so desperately because there's something I've been wanting to tell you for quite a long time." I asked her, "What is it?" "After we separated, David, I tried to move on, but I couldn't get you off my mind. All the guys that came in my life were incomparable to you. What we had between us was something extraordinary. It had the innocence and honesty of two teenagers experiencing love for the first time." She was right. "I feel the same," I said. "I only have fond memories of you and have always wondered, what would have happened if you didn't move away?" "Let's find the answer. Are you still single, David?" she asked, and came close to me. Our eyes met, and I nodded. "We should continue our story from where we left then," she said, and we immediately kissed each other. It was our first kiss. It made both of us realize how long we'd waited for this moment. After 6 years of being apart, we were together at last. I really loved her back then, and had no idea that things would turn out the way they did. Skylar was quite emotional now. So was I, frankly. She reminded me of a time when I genuinely loved her. I moved close to her and said, "I made the biggest mistake of my life, Skylar. You've just reminded me that what I had with you is incomparable to what I have with Emma." She was surprised to hear this. A wide smile came on her face. "Are you serious?" she asked. "Of course I am. There's no one I have loved more than you. You were my childhood crush. You were the girl who taught me what love is," I replied. Her cheeks turned completely red. She said, "I'm glad you have finally understood, David." I came closer to the cage and held her hands. "I still remember our first kiss, Skylar. It was the best kiss of my life." "Thank you, David. I feel the same," she said while blushing. "Will you please do me a favor?" I asked her. "What would you like?" she replied. I looked into her eyes and said, "I want to kiss you again." She smiled with a twinkle in her eye and said, "I have waited to do that for months, David." "Then please, let's do it. Let me out. How can I kiss you with this cage between us?" I asked. There was a sudden shift in her mood at that point. She grew suspicious. "What if you try to run away again?" she asked. "Why would I do that?" I said. "To go back to Emma? No, Skylar, you're the one I love. I made a huge mistake by letting you go." She could sense that I was telling her the truth. She walked away. There was a huge cupboard behind her. She opened it and took out a key which was inside. Holding it in her hand, she smiled and walked towards me. "Thank you so much, Skylar," I said. She put the key inside the lock and replied, "I'm trusting you, David." Saying this, she turned the key and opened the door to the cage. I was finally free. As soon as I came out, she pulled me close to her and held me tight. Looking me in the eyes, she said, "I'm glad you understood your mistake. Now never leave me again." I smiled and nodded. We both started moving towards each other to kiss. Skylar was very happy. She knew she finally had the love of her life back. But sadly for her, I had something else in my mind. I I snatched the key from her hand and pushed her inside the cage immediately. She was caught by surprise. She couldn't believe I broke her trust. She ran towards the door with anger to come flying out of the cage, but before she could do that, I locked the door. She was the one who was trapped now. She shouted, "You always betray me, David. I never should have trusted you." I went close to the cage and said, "You wanted me to rot in prison, Skylar. Well, now you're the one that will rot here." Saying that, I ran towards the stairs to get out of the hotel. Skylar kept screaming behind me, but I couldn't risk letting her out. All I had in my mind was I had to save Emma before Skylar pulls another trick and does something to her. I started sprinting towards my house. There was only one option left now. Emma and I had to leave the city.